In March of 2023, a children's picture book was quietly published in Utah. It was called Are You With Me? A gentle story about a little boy who loses his father and goes through every milestone of childhood, wondering if his dad is still somehow with him, his first day of school, his birthday, Christmas morning. The book was written, its author said, so her 3 young sons could cope with the sudden death of their father the previous year. She went on local television to talk about it. She sat across from hosts on a morning lifestyle program and described how hard the loss had been, how she wrote it for her boys, how she just wanted something to read to them at night. She seemed like a mother doing the most tender thing she knew how to do, turning grief into something soft enough for her children to hold. 59 days after that interview aired, she was arrested for murder. Prosecutors said she didn't write that book to help her sons grieve. She wrote it while she was actively lying to investigators about a death she had engineered. A death she had tried once, failed, waited 17 days, and then tried again until it worked. Her name is Kouri Richins. Her husband's name was Eric. And this is the story of what was really in that drink she handed him the night he died. Eric Eugene Richins was born on May 13, 1982, in Utah. He was, by every account, someone who led with his hands and his heart. He ran a successful stone masonry business with his best friend and business partner, Kouri Richins. He coached all 3 of his sons' sports teams. He was a hunter, an outdoorsman, a father who showed up. His family called him Rico. His obituary would describe him as his boys' best friend, their coach, their protector. Eric and Kouri married on June 15, 2013. They had 3 sons together, ages 9, 7 and 5 at the time of Eric's death. They lived in Kamas, a small mountain town just outside the ski resort community of Park City, Utah. Kouri worked as a real estate agent, buying and flipping properties. The picture was of a family that had everything. A home in the mountains, growing boys, a father who was present, and a mother who was building something. But the picture had a price tag far beyond what had appeared. Kouri Richins had been quietly drowning in it for years. The prenuptial agreement they signed before their wedding spelled out something Kouri had never fully accepted. If the marriage ended in divorce, Eric's assets, his business, his property, his financial security would remain his. She would leave with significantly less. Much less. She had told a friend as far back as 2019 that she felt trapped in the marriage because of it. She said she feared what divorce would mean for her financially. She feared Eric would be better positioned than her. She feared how the community would see her. By 2022, the trap had become a vice. Kouri's real estate business was hemorrhaging money. She owed lenders more than $1.8 million. Forensic accountants testifying at her trial would put her total financial liabilities closer to $8 million. She had recently purchased a large property in Midway, Utah, and the debt was compounding. At the same time, she had been in a romantic relationship with another man, Robert Josh Grossman, a veteran who had served in Iraq. She texted him that she wanted to leave Eric and marry him one day. She told a witness that it would simply be better if Eric Richins just died, and she had been very quietly making preparations to collect if he did. Without Eric's knowledge, Kouri had opened multiple life insurance policies on his life. Together, they were worth more than $2 million. One policy had been obtained through forgery. She had also come to believe, incorrectly, that she would inherit his estate valued at more than $4 million if he died while they were still married. Divorce would leave her with almost nothing. Eric Richins dead was worth millions. In early February 2022, Kouri Richins called her housekeeper, Carmen Lorber. She asked her a favour. Could Carmen source some pain pills for a business investor? Kouri said, who was dealing with pain. Carmen had a history with drugs. She said she could see what she could do. Then, Kouri asked for something stronger. Carmen told her she could get fentanyl. Kouri said, "Okay, go ahead and get them." Carmen bought pills at a gas station in Draper, Utah from a dealer. Kouri left $1,000 cash at a house she was flipping for Carmen to collect. The exchange happened in February 2022. Eric Richins had no history of drug use, no prescriptions, no habit. The pills were not for any investor. On Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2022, Kouri gave Eric a sandwich from a local restaurant. Minutes after eating it, Eric broke out in hives. He had trouble breathing. He grabbed his young son's EpiPen, injected himself, and slept it off. He did not go to the hospital. To some of the friends he told about the incident, it seemed like an allergy. Eric himself downplayed it in some retellings, calling it a strange, almost funny story, but not to everyone. To his friend Josh Krasay, Eric wasn't funny about it at all. He was somber and very serious. To his business partner and close friend Kouri Richins, Eric had fear in his voice. Eric Richins told people close to him that he thought his wife was trying to poison him. Nobody called the police, nobody took formal action, and Kouri did not stop. After Valentine's Day failed, Kouri Richins went back to Carmen Lauber. She needed something stronger, she said. She asked for what the housekeeper later described in court as the Michael Jackson stuff, a crude reference to the powerful sedative that killed the pop star. She paid another $1,000. 3 days after Eric's death, Kouri texted Carmen, "Still have your hookup?" She then paid Carmen $1,300 by check, made out for Construction Clean Midway for another supply. The investigation would later confirm the text conversation between the two women from January through early March 2022 had been deleted from both their phones. On the night of March 3rd, 2022, Kouri Richins told Eric they were celebrating. She had closed a real estate deal. She made him drink a Moscow Mule cocktail, she told investigators later, along with a lemon drop shot, and she brought it upstairs to their bedroom. Then she went to sleep in their son's room. Sometime around 3 a.m, she returned to the master bedroom. She told investigators she found Eric cold to the touch and unresponsive in their bed. She called 911 at 3:21 a.m.
My husband's not breathing, he's cold. I just came in our bed, and I turned over, and he's just cold. He's just cold.
Though phone records showed her phone had first been accessed at 3:06 a.m, those 15 minutes between when she woke and when she called were never explained. Paramedics arrived. Eric Richins was pronounced dead. His sons 9, 7, and 5 years old were asleep in the house. The medical examiner's autopsy found something that had no business being in Eric Richins' body: 15 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl in his blood. A concentration as low as 3 nanograms per milliliter can be fatal. Eric had 5 times the lethal dose. No signs of heart disease. No natural cause of death. The fentanyl was illicit street grade, not medical, and it had been ingested orally. Eric Richins had not taken fentanyl. It had been given to him. In the weeks and months after Eric's death, investigators were watching Kouri Richins. What they saw was not a widow in free fall. It was a woman in motion. She went on exotic vacations. She continued her relationship with Josh Grossman, which ended a few months after Eric died. She filed lawsuits to claim Eric's estate against his family's wishes. She published a children's book. She appeared on morning television to discuss her grief. And her phone told its own story. Digital forensics recovered search history that included: what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? Can cops uncover deleted messages iPhone? Luxury prisons for the wealthy in the United States. Women Utah prison. And the morning Eric died, before the ambulance arrived, before the calls were made, 3 money-themed memes had been accessed on her phone. One of them read, "I'm rich." Meanwhile, Kouri was producing correspondence from jail that drew attention for the wrong reasons. A letter later dubbed the Walk the Dog letter for words scrawled at the top was recovered from her jail cell. In it, she appeared to instruct her mother on what her brother Ronnie should say in court. She wrote that the defense case needed some kind of connection between Eric and drugs, and laid out a story for Ronnie to tell about Eric supposedly obtaining fentanyl in Mexico. Prosecutors called it witness tampering and moved to restrict her contact with family members. In May 2023, 14 months after Eric's death, Kouri Richins was arrested for his murder, 2 months after she had been on television talking about her grief book. The trial opened February 23, 2026. In Park City, Utah. It ran for 3 weeks. The prosecution called 40 witnesses. Among the most significant, Carmen Lauber, who testified over 2 days about the drug transactions. Josh Grossman, visibly emotional on the stand, who told the jury about a conversation he and Kouri had roughly 2 weeks after Eric's death, in which she asked him, an Iraq war veteran, whether he had ever killed anyone and how it made him feel. Eric's friends and business partners described his behaviour after Valentine's Day. Forensic accountants laid out the debt. A forensic pathologist confirmed Eric had no underlying condition that could explain his death. A digital forensics expert walked the jury through the deleted texts, the incriminating searches, and the phone activity on the night Eric died. When the prosecution rested, the defence prepared to call witnesses. Then they didn't. Kouri Richins also chose not to testify. The jury foreperson later told 48 Hours, "I was so shocked, and I was actually really disappointed." The jury deliberated for 3 hours. On March 16, 2026, they returned a verdict on every count. Guilty of first-degree aggravated murder, guilty of attempted aggravated murder for Valentine's Day, guilty of insurance fraud, guilty of forgery. On May 13, 2026, which would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday, Kouri was brought into Summit County's 3rd District Court for sentencing. Before the judge spoke, the courtroom heard from Eric's family. His father, Gene Richins, said Eric was an incredible father to his 3 boys, their best friend, their coach, their protector, and that he had been betrayed by the person who was supposed to protect him in return. Then came the moment that no courtroom script could have anticipated. Eric and Kouri's own sons submitted written victim impact statements. The boys, now in their early teens, said they would feel unsafe if their mother were ever released from prison. Their middle son, now 11, gave the court new details about the night his father died. He described being put to bed early without a bath, his parents' bedroom door locked, the television blaring from inside. He said that when he used a broom handle to try to reach the key to their bedroom, his mother yelled at him to go away. When Kouri addressed the court, she told her sons they were her reason for living. She told them to be like your dad. She maintained she had nothing to do with Eric's death. She vowed to appeal. Judge Richard Mrazek looked at the record in front of him. He said she had attempted to kill her husband, failed, and then rather than stop, spent the next 17 days preparing to try again. He said she then completed the act through the administration of poison. And for what? The judge asked. For money. All for financial gain. A person convicted of those things, he said, is simply too dangerous to ever be free. Kouri Richins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Eric Richins knew. That is the detail that should stay with you. He had survived one attempt stumbling through the house with hives and no air in his lungs, his young son's EpiPen jabbed into his own leg. He told people he loved and trusted that he believed his wife was trying to kill him. And then he went home. He went home because that is what you do. You go home to your house and your children and the person you married, because the alternative that someone who shares your bed and your last name and your kids is trying to end your life is almost impossible to fully believe, even when you've just survived it. He brought his sons to their sports practices. He talked to his friends. He lived his life for 17 more days inside a house where the person who had already tried once was simply waiting for another opportunity. And on the night of March 3rd, 2022, she handed him a drink. He raised 3 boys who loved him so completely that as teenagers, sitting in a courtroom where their mother was being sentenced for his murder, they said they would feel unsafe if she ever came home. He coached their teams. He was their best friend. He was Rico. Eric Richins was 39 years old. He should have had decades ahead of him. He had already survived one poisoning. He deserved to survive what came next. Rest in peace, Eric Richins. Your sons remember exactly who you were. If this case left you stunned, you're not alone. Subscribe to Noctis Crimes and leave a comment. Tell me, the children's book, the Valentine's Day sandwich, or those 3 money memes on her phone at Thram. Which detail hit you hardest? The next case is already waiting.